For many people, life feels like a constant battle against their own body. Stubborn acne that defies every cream. Cycles that are so unpredictable, planning anything feels like a gamble. The conventional story often points a finger straight at the ovaries. But what if a huge part of the problem isn't starting there at all? What if your ovaries are simply reacting to signals sent from your metabolism, specifically from spikes in the hormone insulin? Taming that insulin signal can quiet the hormonal static, and for many with polycystic ovary syndrome, that quiet is exactly what's needed for ovulation to finally find its rhythm again. Here is the simple version. In many people with PCOS, high insulin turns up androgen production. When you ease the carbohydrate load and manage blood sugar spikes, insulin levels can fall. Androgens often follow. When that androgen noise is lower, the ovary has a better chance to select and mature a follicle, leading to more regular ovulation. This matters because long, random cycles are more than just an inconvenience. They can be deeply stressful, leaving you feeling out of sync with your own body. This idea shifts the focus. It suggests a powerful lever for change isn't only found in a specialist's office, but also in everyday metabolism. That makes it something you can explore through small, safe, and observable steps in your daily life. Let's unpack the mechanism. Imagine your body's cells have doors, and insulin is the key that unlocks them to let glucose, sugar from food, inside for energy. With insulin resistance, those locks get a bit rusty. They don't turn as easily. So the pancreas has to make a whole flood of extra keys, extra insulin, just to get the same job done. This is incredibly common in PCOS. Studies show about 50 to 70% of people with the diagnosis have some degree of it. And here is a crucial point that many people miss. This can happen even in the absence of significant weight gain. A substantial portion of people with PCOS who are considered lean still have this underlying insulin resistance. It's an internal metabolic state, not just something you can see from the outside. This explains why diet quality and glycemic load can be so important, independent of weight loss. This flood of extra insulin doesn't just knock on the cell doors. It travels through the bloodstream and has two very specific conversations that change the hormonal game. First, it talks directly to the ovaries. It stimulates specialized cells there to ramp up production of androgens like testosterone. Second, it talks to the liver. The liver produces a crucial protein called sex hormone binding globulin, or SHBG. Think of SHBG as a taxi service for hormones. It picks up testosterone and keeps it bound or inactive. High insulin tells the liver to cut back on the taxi service. With fewer SHBG taxis, more testosterone is left to roam free. This free testosterone is what's biologically active. So now you have this double whammy. The ovaries are making more androgens, and the liver is making less of the protein that ties them up. This hormonal noise directly interferes with the delicate process of developing and releasing an egg. It can cause the tiny follicles in the ovary, each housing a potential egg, to stall out in their development. They don't mature properly, so ovulation gets delayed, or sometimes doesn't happen at all. This is why cycles can stretch from 30 days to 45 to 60 or even longer. The signal to ovulate is being drowned out by androgen static. Here is the key insight for taking action. It is not just about carbs versus no carbs. It is about the glycemic load. How fast and how much glucose hits your bloodstream at once. This is what shapes how high your insulin has to surge. A refined starch or sugary drink on its own is like dumping a bucket of water into a sink. The level shoots up, and insulin has to rush in to manage it. But when you pair those carbs with protein, healthy fats, and fiber, the flow is slower. The rise is smaller. Insulin can stay much steadier. What do studies see when people put this idea into practice? Trials that lower the carbohydrate load, often to about 30 to 45% of daily calories with a lower glycemic pattern, see tangible results. Over 8 to 24 weeks, they tend to show fasting insulin dropping by a few points. SHBG, the helpful taxi protein, often rises by 10 to 30%. As a result, the free androgen index, a measure of that active testosterone, falls. In some studies, this leads directly to a higher rate of spontaneous ovulation within a few months. Let's make it real with a composite story. Picture a 29-year-old with cycles that wander between 45 and 70 days. Her days used to be fueled by convenience, a sweet coffee and pastry for breakfast, a sandwich on white bread for lunch, and sugary drinks in the afternoon. Feeling frustrated, she decides to experiment not with restriction, but with composition. She shifts to a moderate carb, lower glycemic load pattern. She keeps her total calories roughly the same, but now breakfast is eggs with avocado, and lunch is a large salad with chicken and beans. She adds 2 20-minute brisk walks, usually after her bigger meals. After 8 weeks, the invisible changes show up on paper. Her fasting insulin drops from 18 down to 11. Her SHBG rises from 24 to 34. The visible changes follow. By the 3rd month, her cycle tightens to a predictable 35 days. An ovulation test strip shows a clear surge. A blood test later confirms it. She ovulated. Her weight has only shifted by about 3%, a sign that the changes were driven by turning down the insulin and androgen noise, not just weight loss. And this insulin lever isn't just controlled by your fork. 2 other powerful tools work on the same pathway. First is resistance training. When you lift weights or do bodyweight exercises, your muscles can pull glucose out of your bloodstream directly, with less need for insulin. It's like opening a side door for the glucose to get in. The second tool is sleep. Even 1 week of insufficient sleep can measurably worsen insulin sensitivity. Consistently getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep helps keep your whole system running smoothly. These aren't small tweaks. They are foundational pillars that work with dietary changes to regulate insulin. So, who tends to benefit most from this approach? People with an insulin-driven pattern of PCOS. This can be confirmed with blood tests like fasting insulin or a measure called HOMA-IR. Remember, this includes many lean individuals. If your lab work shows signs of that rusty lock mechanism, then addressing insulin is likely to be a high-impact strategy for you. It's also crucial to know who might not see a shift from this alone. If irregular cycles are being driven by other issues, like thyroid problems, high prolactin, or hypothalamic causes from high stress or undereating, then carb tweaks will not fix the root problem. A thorough medical evaluation is always the right first step. Even within PCOS, biology is personal. Some respond dramatically, others see little change on the same plan. How do you test this without turning life upside down? Give it a dedicated trial period. 8 to 12 weeks is often enough to see early shifts in lab markers like insulin and SHBG. Cycle changes can lag by another month or 2, so patience is key. Focus on simple swaps, fewer liquid sugars and ultra-refined starches, more intact grains, legumes, and non-starchy vegetables. A simple rule is to start your meals with protein and fiber to blunt the glucose spike from any carbs that follow. During your trial, track objective markers. Note your cycle length on a calendar. You can look for an LH surge with home ovulation strips. If you are working with a clinician, rechecking fasting insulin and SHBG can provide direct feedback. A mid-luteal progesterone test is the gold standard to confirm if ovulation actually occurred. Using real data helps you see the signal through the noise of daily fluctuations. A few final caveats. PCOS is a spectrum. Not everyone has insulin resistance. Many trials bundle diet, movement, and weight loss, so it is hard to cleanly isolate one lever. And remember, carbohydrates are not the enemy. Fiber-rich, minimally processed sources are vital for long-term health. The goal is fewer dramatic spikes and more gentle waves, not fear or over-restriction. Here is the reframe to carry with you. My ovaries listen to my metabolism. They respond to signals from insulin just as much as they do to reproductive hormones. Lowering insulin is not a cure-all, but for many, it can turn down the volume on androgen static just enough for the natural signal of ovulation to finally be heard. If you appreciate clear, actionable ideas that change how you think about health, work, and decisions, you're in the right place. Tap subscribe and drop a like if this was useful. Explore the channel for more single concepts you can test in your own life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.